President Joe Biden delivering a major primetime speech last night, just days before Americans head to the polls to vote on Election Day. The president stressing the importance of protecting democracy and denouncing election deniers. Take a listen.
American democracy is under attack because the defeated former president of the United States refuses to accept the results of the 2020 election. He refuses to accept the will of the people. He refuses to accept the fact that he lost. He has abused his power and put the loyalty to himself before loyalty to the Constitution.
Joining me now, White House Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton. So, Olivia, you can't deny the economy is in dangerous territory right now. I mean, just yesterday, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates for the 6th time this year. Clearly, this White House is struggling to combat inflation.
Well, look, Kira, I can't comment on monetary policy from here, and I can't comment on Chairman Powell's decision-making yesterday. But what I can tell you is the economy is front of mind for this president, lowering costs for Americans, front of mind for this president. We've made historic progress over the past 2 years, 10 million jobs added to the economy, lowest unemployment in 50 years. The stock market closed at an all-time high at the end of last month, and we're going to continue tackling inflation. We know that this is an issue where Americans are feeling the squeeze, and the president is going across the country talking about everything he's doing through the Inflation Reduction Act and beyond to start bringing down some of these costs.
Well, Olivia, you are the Deputy Press Secretary. You've got to be able to comment on White House policy and what the president himself is touting to push forward in this country. And Americans are suffering right now. I mean, those rising interest rates are impacting middle-class Americans at this moment. They can't pay their credit cards. They can't buy a house. And at what point is it enough? You just can't keep raising interest rates.
Well, again, the Fed is an independent body, and we can't comment on the Fed from here. What I would say is the president is focused on doing everything in his power to lower costs for the American people. He knows Americans are feeling the squeeze. He's been focused on creating jobs, lowering costs through the Inflation Reduction Act, which has lowered Medicare premiums, lowered prescription drug costs, lowered energy costs for Americans. And we'll continue to see more of that kick in at the beginning of the new year. The president is focused like a laser on this issue. He knows Americans are feeling it.
Well, the president says he does have this robust agenda. But again, let's face the facts. Our economy, in particular, inflation, it's killing us. And Democrats are more than likely about to lose control of Congress. So how do you expect to get any part of that robust agenda across the finish line?
Well, look, we've made historic progress over the past 2 years, and I think the president you've seen going across the country. He's in New Mexico today talking about his student debt relief program and providing more economic breathing room to student borrowers. He's talking about bringing manufacturing back to the United States and investment back to the United States in San Diego tomorrow. He's bringing this message to the American people. And then he's also talking about what's at stake. There's a huge, huge stake that's looming for the American, huge choice that's looming for the American people. There's a front page New York Times story that lays out today exactly what's at stake in terms of what happens if congressional Republicans get their way. Congressional Republicans today saying that if they get a majority in Congress, they will put Medicare and Social Security on the chopping block. They will repeal the Inflation Reduction Act and raise costs on Americans. So these are two starkly different economic messages that we're hearing, and the president is making that case all over the country right now.
You just pointed out what's at stake, but what is the president doing?
The president has just passed a series of legislative packages which have brought manufacturing back to the United States, brought 10 million jobs to the United States. He's going to be at a business tomorrow morning, which is benefiting from the Chips and Science Act and our investment in the semiconductor industry in the United States. So we're making progress here. The president wants to continue making that progress, and we have got to continue to call out what congressional Republicans would do if they were in power, which is rip all of that progress away.
So let's say you did lose control of Congress. That's going to hurt the progress you're talking about. And our ABC News polling shows that most Democrats would prefer a different candidate for president in 2024 right now. At what point does President Biden come forward and decide he's just not going to run again?
Well, look, Kira, I can't get into electoral politics from here at the White House. There's something called the Hatch Act that we care about here and that we're committed to abiding by. But the president has stated very clearly that he intends to run in 2024, and that's what he'll continue to do.
So the president in a speech last night talking about former President Donald Trump and the big lie about the 2020 election and how it's fueled what he calls the dangerous rise in political violence and voter intimidation, strong quote. And we see that. Election workers are wearing flak jackets in Colorado. Nancy Pelosi's husband is getting whacked with a hammer by a home invader, apparently inspired by Trump's rhetoric. So why isn't the president taking more real action at this moment to address these violent acts and these threats?
Well, I think you heard the president do just that last night in very, very strong terms. He's been talking, as you know, since 2019, since he launched his campaign for president, about the importance of protecting our democracy, protecting the soul of our nation, and what's at stake. He gave another address on the anniversary of the January 6th attacks. He gave another address in September in Philadelphia outside Independence Hall. He's continued to talk about this issue and what the stakes are, and he's also made very, very clear that that this administration will continue to stand up to that kind of political violence, that political rhetoric, and you heard him do that in very plain terms last night. This is a moment where he needed to communicate to the American people once again what is at stake here, and ask Americans to come together across the spectrum and call out these threats to the rule of law, to stand united against threats of political violence. That's not how we do things in the United States of America, and the president intended to deliver that clarion call last night.
Calling it out is one thing, stopping it is another.
The president, I would actually refer you to DHS and DOJ and FBI, which have already issued a notice to state and local officials and intend to work very closely with them to ensure that our elections are safe and that everyone feels comfortable going to the polls next week. This is a critically important issue, and Americans should absolutely feel safe and confident that federal, state, and local officials are working in sync on this.
Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton there from the White House. Olivia, thank you.
Thank you, Kira.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.